I'm Caroline Hyde. This is Bloomberg Technology, and we're in Boston this week, showcasing the innovation, diversity, and power of the regional tech economy. Today, we're at Boston's historic Fenway Park. Coming up in the next hour, we sit down with Red Sox president Sam Kennedy and discuss how this local team has become a global phenomenon. Plus, Reebok is innovating the footwear industry. We'll speak with Reebok president Matt O'Toole about how the company is using 3D tech for its products. And the Celtics are currently 2-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Before the team heads to Cleveland on Saturday for Game 3, we'll speak to Celtics president Rich Gotham. But first, to our top story. It's one of the most iconic landscapes in American sports. 106 years old and counting. It's home to the fabled Boston Red Sox. I'm talking about our home for the next hour, Fenway Park. From the early days of Babe Ruth to Carlton Fisk's iconic Game 6 home run during the 1975 World Series to the 2004 curse-breaking championship team, this is a stadium that's seen it all. And now the Red Sox are half a game back of their rivals from the New York and for the lead in the American League East. Joining us now, a man who's been with the Red Sox for 15 years and is now the team's president, Sam Kennedy. Welcome to Bloomberg Technology.
Great to be with you. Thanks for being here at Fenway.
What a historic place, 106 years old, as we were just saying. I mean, we're at a technology show. Talk to us about how you can be at the cutting edge of technology with a stadium such as this when it's old.
Well, we need to, because we've got lots of young fans coming through our gates, and we need to make sure they're connected at all times. So whether it's enhanced Wi-Fi or a distributed antenna system so people can be connected on their social media accounts, it's something that we focus on. The fan experience, when people come here, they need to be connected to each other, not just at the ballpark, but to their friends around the world. And it's a really important thing for us. Major League Baseball has spent a lot of money on upgrading the technology around its 30 ballparks and interacting with fans through their websites and social channels. So it's really a priority for us as we look to grow the game and as we move into the future.
How do you ensure it is a priority to you when, look, you get sellout games anyway? Do you really need to innovate? How do you keep on pushing yourself?
We do. We never want to take for granted that people are just going to keep coming through the gates of Fenway. We have 3 million people that come year in and year out, not just for baseball, but for concerts and for other events, whether it's international soccer games or college football or even outdoor ice hockey in the winter. So we try to do new and different things to make sure people are coming to Fenway throughout the year, and we're lucky to have such a loyal fan base.
New and different things like what?
Well, it's staging different events. Like we've got concerts. We've got Jay-Z and Justin Timberlake have played here.
Personal favorite.
Yeah, there
Jay-Z.
you go. Well, we've had Zach Brown Band and Pearl Jam will be here this summer. We've done ski jumping and snowboarding. We've had Liverpool Football Club come here and Celtic Football Club come here. So we really try to bring new and different events to the city of Boston, which of course is great for the region, for the economy, great for Fenway Park, and great for our fans.
You mentioned Liverpool FC there.
Yes.
Important because, in fact, the company that sort of oversees this, that owns this, is Fenway Sports Group, has a stake in Liverpool as well. What are the similarities you're seeing internationally? Because I know back home we are obsessed with our football, or soccer as you guys call it, as much as you're obsessed with baseball here.
There's no question. John Henry, Tom Werner, our owners, got involved with Liverpool back in 2010 with a desire of making sure that Anfield had a great experience for its fans, and they also wanted to try and win. That's the key here, is to win. You're in the professional sports business to win. Fortunately, Liverpool is playing in the Champions League finals in about 10 days in Kiev, which will be very exciting. So it is a very passionate fan base over in Liverpool and around the world, and we've really learned a lot from international football, as you call it.
Yeah.
And we've tried to bring some of those traditions to America and to Boston, including playing international football games here at Fenway Park.
Congratulations on the season. It's all about winning, as you say.
Well, we're still looking up at the Yankees, so we have a little bit of a ways to go.
Talk to me about that rivalry. It's so important. How do you try and get ahead, ensure that they're not in the first place?
Well, you have to invest heavily in your baseball operations department. Dave Dombrowski, our general manager, has done a great job of fielding a competitive team this year. We're a half game behind the Yankees, and we have scouting, player development. The amateur draft is coming up. It's really important that you're investing in those areas, and then we're fortunate to have the resources, as many Yankee fans know and Brian Cashman knows, to invest in the free agency market. So we try to do both, and it's hard to keep up with the Yankees. They have been our rival for so long, and it's actually good for baseball to see both teams at the American League East at the top of the AL East, but we've got a long way to go.
You say it's important about investing, spending the money. You've got deep pockets. It's been a weird off-season. We saw a lot of free agents going unsigned until the last minute. Is that changing the way that people are willing to spend money on players? Does it make it a better place for you when you've got deep pockets?
It'll be interesting to see. It was a very slow-moving off-season around the league. Perhaps the Red Sox were the exception. We invested heavily in free agency and re-signing some of our existing players. So we have one of the highest payrolls, if not the highest payroll in the game. So we continue, John Henry, Tom Werner, continue to invest. And we'll see. It may have been a moment in time in terms of the market conditions being a little bit different, who was available, what teams were looking to get under the competitive balance tax threshold. We'll see how next offseason develops, and you'll look back in 3 or 4 years and see if it was a blip on the radar or a trend as we move forward. That's yet to be determined.
How do you ensure that the franchise keeps on reaping in enough money to be able to do the investing in the players and making sure that you're splashing the most cash? Yeah,
well, you have to be focused on the fan experience, making sure Red Sox fans, who are the smartest fans in baseball, are getting a great experience when they come here. And they want to have fun. They want to enjoy good competitive baseball, but they also want to enjoy the other amenities throughout the ballpark, whether that's kids getting involved with our virtual reality activities or augmented reality through our baseball card collection.
So it's tech heavy here.
It is tech heavy, but you also have to balance that with a reminder that sometimes people want to come to a ballpark to get away from electronic devices and screens. So we need to cater to both audiences. But we need to recognize that if we're going to grow the game, we have to be investing in technology, because the next generation is a tech-savvy generation. They're on their mobile devices 7, 8, 9 hours a day, and we have to recognize that, and we need to be there.
What might make people on their mobile devices even more is if they can bet on sports. Now, I come from a country in the UK where we do bet on sports, and it looks as though your Supreme Court might allow it to occur here in the United States. How will that change the game, do you think?
Well, we'll see what happens. Major League Baseball has been very proactive in working with the state officials to see how it's going to work. Supreme Court has said that the states can now decide whether to legalize sports betting. So Major League Baseball has been working with the individual states and the legislators to see how this is all going to play out. Most important for us, we think it's a good thing, because there will be regulation of sports betting. We know it's happening. There's a massive amount of illegal activity taking place. So if the government can regulate that activity, that is a good thing. It gives safety, make sure the integrity of the game is preserved. And then we'll see what the other benefits may be, whether there's more fan engagement, more interest in the sports. That has happened around the world, especially you mentioned international football. So I think that will occur, but it's a little bit early to see, as the Supreme Court just ruled earlier this week. But we see it as a positive development, and we're watching it very closely as an individual club.
How will you protect the players?
Well, the players, they need to be subject to the rules that all of us in baseball will be subject to, which exist. You cannot bet on baseball if you're involved with the sport. That's obvious, and I think through greater regulation and monitoring of gambling activity, that will be aided and expanded. So Major League Baseball is all over it. They're working closely with Adam Silver at the NBA, Jay Monahan at the PGA Tour, to make sure that all the sports governing bodies are linked and aligned in this as we enter this brave new world.
Should you take a cut? Should the sports get a cut?
I think it's appropriate for the sport to have some type of integrity fee. There will be a lot of expenses incurred by the individual sports to monitor the activity. Certainly the intellectual property, the investment that the industry makes, whether whether it's $9-10 billion being invested to put that content out there. I think it is appropriate, but that's obviously up to the government to decide.
Sam, you've been here for 15 years in excess of.
Forever.
What's been your favorite moment sitting in this hallowed ground? Give us a sense for our audience who are such fans.
I grew up in Boston, about a mile down the street, so my favorite moment was 2005 when I was able to give our 2004 World Series ring to my dad. He is a huge Red Sox fan, and that was a very special moment. I had the good fortune to get my career started with the New York Yankees, believe it or not, back in the 1990s.
Keeping it close to home.
Yeah, and then I went to the San Diego Padres, but to come back home and work in the town that I grew up in, it's been a dream come true. And John Henry, Tom Werner, some of the best owners in all professional sports, they've really invested heavily into Fenway, as you can tell. So it's been magical, and I look forward to the next 15 years.
Sam Kennedy, I hope that we can come back, and I know that there have been many fans really interested in this conversation. Thank you so much. And of course was the president of the Boston Red Sox, Sam Kennedy, joining us, and a big thank you for having us broadcast from the historic stadium. Now, coming up, we'll sit down with the Reebok president, Matt O'Toole, and cover the company's decision to move its headquarters to right here in Boston. And if you like Bloomberg News, check us out on the radio. You can listen on the Bloomberg Radio app, Bloomberg.com, and in the US on Sirius XM. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to a special edition of Bloomberg Technology here at Fenway Park in Boston. Now, Reebok is using 3D technology to break the mold. Bloomberg's Ann Mostew visited the Boston-based company's headquarters to see how it's using proprietary liquid material, software, and robotics to draw shoes in three-dimensional layers.
The footwear industry is seeing a jumpstart in technology. Nike's HyperAdapt made self-lacing shoes a reality. Adidas's Futurecraft introduced 3D printing with comfort. And now Reebok's Liquid Factory is making intricate, lightweight designs along with the company's 100% recyclable footwear line, Cotton and Corn.
This is our 3D printing lab.
Bill McGinnis is head of Reebok Future.
Liquid Factory is a way to get away from using molds like every other shoe in the market does and draw the bottom of the shoe instead. So this is like 3D printing, only much, much faster.
It's an effort to streamline production and keep up with younger consumers.
The big goal is to go from, we're going to make 1 million pairs of one shoe in the exact same type and hope everybody likes it, and that was kind of the old model. And now we're moving to smaller and smaller batches, 10,000 instead of 100,000. And as you get tighter and tighter, you can get closer and closer to custom.
And how is that a benefit to Reebok? What are the benefits of new manufacturing?
So you can get a lot faster, so you can react much more quickly to consumers.
Reebok isn't alone. Parent company Adidas and rivals Nike and Under Armour have also moved into the 3D printed sneaker game. But Reebok's Liquid Factory material is proprietary. The process uses computer software and robotics to draw shoes in 3 dimensions.
We're actually faster than the old model right now. So each bottom unit takes a couple minutes to put together, and again, it's all automated.
Adidas bought Reebok in 2006 for $3.8 billion, and in 2010 began a turnaround to reposition it as a fitness brand by signing a partnership with CrossFit. But Reebok today is the one unit that remains unprofitable. Still, Adidas says it's committed to the future of Reebok and moved its headquarters from the Boston suburbs to downtown this year.
The spirit of the company has changed dramatically. I mean, we were always a very established shoe brand. Moving down here, being in the excitement of this district, I think has the whole place feeling like a startup.
It does feel like a startup, breathing new life into its classic white leather sneaker. Ann Mostew, Bloomberg, Boston.
And joining us to discuss Reebok's strategy with 3D technology and much more, we're joined by Matt O'Toole, Reebok president. We're hearing there, Matt. You feel like a startup being here in downtown Boston. How do you ensure that that's the case, that you're innovating when you're leading such a business?
Well, I think one of the things we really wanted to do by moving into the city from the suburbs is change the whole dynamic. We were in our kind of suburban gated community, and we've moved into the heart of a really thriving innovation district here in Boston. We occupy 25% of a 1 million square foot facility, but the rest of the building houses 128 startups. So our whole goal has been to really kind of inject life through innovation and connecting with all the amazing things that are happening in Boston right now.
Do you think it's working? What are the innovations you're most proud of at the moment?
Well, I think right now, we set upon this journey of trying to rethink the process of making shoes, and that would allow us to do some things that haven't been possible before. And as the segment just showed, Liquid Factory is really kind of the crowning achievement there, in that it not only changes the process where we can produce a shoe now literally in seconds by pouring it, but we also, for the consumer, can create kind of one of, so making a shoe that fits your cushioning needs, your stride, and that can be completely different from the next shoe down the line. And this is something we just don't have the ability to do. What you see in customization today is different materials, colors, being able to put your style on a product, but from a performance point of view, this is really a big step forward.
Customization, that's where the consumer is clamoring. How is the consumer to you at the moment when you're looking at them in the US in particular? What's sentiment like? Do you feel like this is a good time to be in the fashion?
Absolutely. I mean, the consumer is moving quicker than ever. The consumer is digital savvy. They know what they want, and they want it right away. And I think that this is really an innovation that gives us the opportunity to do that. I think the other big thing is the consumer is very focused on the environment and sustainability, and another innovation that's come out of our process focus has been cotton and corn. How do we make shoes entirely out of things that grow so they become biodegradable? Today, every athletic shoe is made of some petroleum product. It's not going to be able to biodegrade in any short period of time. And how can we really push the envelope there? And so next month, we'll launch a series of products to start that cotton and corn made from things that grow initiative.
What the consumer also loves is boutique workouts. They love ClassPass, they love Barry's Bootcamp, they love spending a bit of money on themselves in this respect. Last time we spoke, you had just partnered with Les Mills. You were really focusing on CrossFit, on the gym. Do you feel you own that market as much as you should?
Well, I think it's such an important focus for us that, there's a lot of talk about the need for people to move, but there's not a lot of things that are really keeping people coming back. And what we found is the secret sauce has been community. So whether it's Les Mills or CrossFit or doing a spin class, when you have a community that's kind of keeping you engaged and making sure that you're there for the next class, that really works. And that's the kind of partnerships that we focused on.
Any other partnerships that you're looking for?
Well, one that we're excited about is called the Ragnar Relay, and this is a team event. 12 people take turns running in a 100-mile race, and it's a really great bonding event, but also another way to keep people really engaged in running that can typically be kind of a solitary event.
What about, therefore, as you look for these partnerships, you look to a way to ensure that you get repeat business? How is your business? The revenues were declining in the previous quarter. They're down by 3%, but your owner, Adidas, is committed to you. How are you turning this around?
Well, I think the good news for us is in 2018, the U.S. market will be back to growth. We've seen good momentum in the rest of the world. Also, from a profitability point of view, in 2017, we expanded our margins by almost 400 basis points. So the trend is right. Now we have to continue the trend. We're in the middle of a 4-year turnaround, and ultimately it comes back to us really delivering on our strategy, which is to refocus on our kind of fitness beginnings. We started as a women's fitness brand with the first ever women's fitness shoe back in the early 80s. And over the last several years, we've really recommitted ourselves to being outstanding in fitness and running and training and being a brand that's really motivating people to move.
But it was the training and the running that led to declines in the previous quarter. What is turning the US around right now? What is it that you've harnessed that you then can ensure is trodden the same path internationally?
Yeah. Well, I think what's happening is the consumer is really looking for authentic stories that are relevant not only for today, but that they fit the brand's DNA. And for us, we have such a rich history and such a rich archive of products in our classics business. So classics, along with our current fitness proposition, is really what's making the difference.
What about your owner, Adidas? They say at the moment that they're committed to you. There's no sale at this time. Would it matter to you if you were sold?
Well, I think the thing is, it's very helpful to us to be part of such a powerful global company. I mean, whether it's from a digital perspective or a distribution perspective in many markets around the world. Our CEO, who's been on the job almost 2 years now, took a look at all the portfolio companies of the business and has exited some, but has remained committed to the fact that Reebok really, I think especially with our fitness strategy, complements Adidas very well.
How do you think you're going to continue to stand out from the crowd and make yourself something independent? It's very fiercely competitive out there when it comes to the shoes that I'm looking at wearing when I go to the gym.
Yeah. Well, I think what we're talking about today is a big part of it, technology. Like, we have to continue to deliver what's new and what's next to the consumer. And we've done that in the past with things like Pump, our DMX technology. More recently, our Float Ride shoe was awarded the best debut running shoe by Runner's World, which is a new cushioning system. So we've got to stay ahead on the technology side, and I think that a couple of things that we talked about today would be examples of that.
Matt Toole, we'll come back and hear from you in the future. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
And of course was the Reebok president there. Now, coming up later in the show, Celtics rising. We look at the other legendary Boston sports team that's on the cusp of the NBA Finals. Our chat with Celtics president Rich Gotham. This is Bloomberg. To a few headlines grabbing our attention. Goldman Sachs says that Tesla may need $10 billion in funding by 2020. That's to pay for the electric car maker's operations, new productions, and a likely expansion into China. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has been cutting costs to avoid having to raise capital this year. Toshiba has gotten regulatory approval from China for the sale of its memory chip business, clearing the way for the $18 billion deal with a group led by Bain Capital, according to a person familiar with the matter. The deal had previously missed earlier deadlines for clearance as the companies waited on Chinese antitrust authorities to make a decision. And UK online grocer Ocado struck its first deal in the US. Kroger agreed to buy a 5% stake in the company and will become the exclusive user of its technology for distributing groceries and food. That's in the wake of the Amazon Whole Foods deal last year. They're also planning to open up to 20 robotic warehouses in 3 years. The Kroger deal escalates a fight for leadership in the business. In March, Walmart announced plans to expand its grocery home delivery service to more than 100 metro areas this year, with deliveries handled by services such as Uber. Now, coming up, we talk to Rich Gotham, president of the Boston Celtics, as his team looks to continue its stunning playoff run. That's next, and this is Bloomberg. Welcome back to Bloomberg Technology, coming to you from the home of the Red Sox. It's historic Fenway Park. But for now, we're going to turn our gaze upon Boston's other legendary team that's in the midst of a stunning playoff run, the Boston Celtics. Sports writers said they weren't supposed to get this far, especially missing their two best players. But the Celtics are just 2 wins away from another NBA Finals appearance. And they're doing it while beating LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Joining me now, one of the chief architects of this amazing run, Rich Gotham, president of the Boston Celtics. Welcome to Bloomberg Technology, Rich.
Thank you for having me, and I like your office.
Thank you. It suits us for the day. What a stunning run. You're going to LeBron's home turf. You're going to Cleveland Cavaliers' home turf. How do you feel about it on Saturday?
I feel good about it. I mean, our team is playing really well now, continue to defy expectations.
Yeah.
We've got to be expecting Cleveland's best. They're not going to go down without a real fight. So we expect to have 2 really difficult games out there. I'd love to get both, obviously. If we get one of them, I'll feel pretty good about that. So we go in feeling good, though. Our team's on a nice roll. We're playing really well with a lot of confidence. And so I feel good about our chances.
What's behind that confidence? What's behind this perfect mix that you've got going?
You know, I think it's a lot of things coming together. I think this team has had a special vibe and a special culture all year long. They're really resilient. I think the coach instills a lot of belief in them. He puts them in a position to bring out the best in each of the individual guys. But I also think we've got a lot of talent on this team, and I think a couple guys had to get hurt in order to see all that talent surface. But players like Terry Rozier and Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, young guys who are really getting their first chance to show what they can do on the big stage, have really grown into those roles. Al Horford has been a great player in the league for a while, has been a great leader on the team. So I think it's a lot of things coming together at once.
When you are missing 2 of your top players, how does that affect the franchise? How does it affect business?
Well, it really hasn't affected business this year. I mean, we've been on quite a roll without him, fortunately. But, the NBA is a star-driven league. Kyrie Irving, in particular, one of the biggest global names in our sport. But the Celtics are a great brand. We're one of the truly global sport brands. And I think we've got a little bit of a recession-proof quality to us because we've got such a large, global, loyal following. So the team doesn't tend to go up and down as much, or the business performance doesn't tend to twist in the wind with the win-loss record or player injuries. We've been doing this for a while, and I think it's been a pretty steady state, and this year it's just been nothing but growth.
It's about stoking loyalty and keeping the fans engaged, and the NBA is on a roll in terms of 1 billion viewers internationally. How do you harness that? How do you use technology, for example, to be able to engage with an enormous fan base?
Right, we're riding some great trends with the NBA right now. As a global sport that's got great appeal with young people, digitally savvy people. No barrier to entry to the game, can be played by both genders, nonviolent sport. I mean, a lot of trends going in our favor, but probably the biggest trend is, the explosion of digital content globally, which allows us to engage with fans anywhere and everywhere. It used to be you followed your team in your city, in your state, maybe in your region. Now we've got fans all over the world. We've got more Facebook followers in the Philippines than we do in the greater Boston area. So, not to mention 400 million NBA fans in China. We get 20 million video views a month from content that the Boston Celtics produce here in Boston and push out through all our channels globally. So that more than anything has really fueled, I think, the growth of the NBA. Our players are really savvy in terms of using that digital technology and social media.
They're young themselves.
To brand themselves, and exactly, they're natives, right? They're the first generation of digital natives, and so that's really helped grow the game as well, and the global fan base, and all that is feeding, the bigger macro trend, the value of these NBA teams these days, television ratings going up, and not only television ratings going up, but streaming going up without detracting from television ratings. So it's really been a great story, and we're even reaching that really hard to get 18 to 34 group. The young people who tend to be distracted by technology, or so you think. Television ratings have even grown with that group for the NBA.
One way that people might be using their phones going forward is to making the odd bet. I know that's what's happening in the UK, where it's legal to bet on sports, and it might become legal very soon in a state near you. How will that affect the game?
That remains to be seen. I think people are already, betting today and wagering on games today. It's just happening, in the shadows, so to speak. So I'm not sure how much it changes things when and if it comes to light. I think, at the Celtics, we don't really have a fully formed point of view at this stage. I think we're taking our cue from the NBA, who's been, looking at this issue for a long time and believes that there should be, a certain amount of federal regulation and state regulation. Excuse me?
A cut to the sport? Should you get some money from the betting?
I think that remains to be seen. I haven't given much thought to the trickle-down economics of that. I think where we are right now in our season is we're playing these really big games, and this is coming up at a time where we don't have much time to focus on anything but the next game.
focusing on the next game, it's all about training, it's about practice. Talk to us about not only TD Garden Arena, but also the practice arena. This is where you're really making sure that technology is in the forefront as well.
Right, we are. We're embarking upon a brand new practice facility. It's going to open in June with our partners at New Balance. And the idea is to have the most state-of-the-art athlete performance center in our league. So we're building this out to accomplish that goal and hopefully give us a competitive advantage. You know, it's all about getting athletes to their peak performance and, you know, strength and conditioning, rest and recovery, nutrition, and, you know, first and foremost, probably injury prevention, which is an interesting area to apply technology because you really need a lot of data and be able to crunch a lot of very big data. We're partnering with GE, who's also got the badge on our jersey, on a project to try to understand how we might better predict when player injury might occur and therefore how we might be able to prevent it.
I mean, we're going to be speaking to Whoop in a bit, which is all about helping players track their own data.
Right.
What about the data of the players? Are they looking to harness that to monetize it in any way? How is their business in that too?
You know, that's all subject to, you know, player consent, player privacy. Those kind of things tend to be collectively bargained between the league and the players. So from a team perspective, we haven't really thought about what to do with that player information other than to help them to stay healthy and be at peak performance. But you can imagine with that kind of data, there's a lot of implications and a lot of different ways for fans to engage with the game. If you want to see how fast the guy's running during the game, we can give you that information. How many miles did they run during a game? What was their heartbeat? All this stuff, you know, isn't stuff that we let out to fans, but you could envision someday that might be very interesting to people.
And give us a sense for Saturday. What one thing should we be looking out for? What one element will you be keeping a keen eye on as a man who knows the business, who knows the team?
I think, as in the second game, we've got to be ready for them to come out with, you know, and throw haymakers at us, ready for them to come out and give us everything they have. And if we can hang close early in the game, I'll feel good. I think we'll have a shot to beat them. That's what I will look for going into that game, and that should be a good early indicator for how it's going to go.
Rich Gotham, we're all going to be viewing. Thank you very much indeed. Wonderful to have him here, the president of the Boston Celtics. Now, YouTube is getting ready to launch its new music service as soon as next week. On May the 22nd, YouTube will spin its music service off to its YouTube Red offering. There will be two versions of the service, one paid and one ad-supported, which will not include features like background listening and downloads. This is YouTube's most direct move to compete with the likes of Spotify, Apple and Amazon when it comes to music streaming. Coming up, in the world of wearable technology, Whoop is become a standout with professional athletes and tech leaders like Jack Dorsey. We'll speak to the CEO next. And coming up later in this show, legalized sports betting. It's no longer just for places like Las Vegas. We look at how this will impact the online gambling world. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to a special edition of Bloomberg Technology from Boston's Fenway Park. Now, those at the top of their game rely on health data for insights and improving performance. Startup Whoop manages to collect massive amounts of data with its wearable devices, and they have gained a lot of fans and investors from the tech and sports world along the way. For more, let's bring in Will Ahmed, CEO of Whoop. So, top athletes, plenty of them using Whoop already, but now you and I can use it. I can have a membership. Talk to us about the product.
Yeah, that's true. So we just launched, actually yesterday, the Whoop membership, which is going to bring this technology really focused on human performance to a much larger audience. So with the membership, you're going to get the hardware, the Whoop Strap 2.0. This is measuring data 100 times a second across 5 different variables. It's giving you feedback on exercise and recovery and sleep. So big focus on recovery and ultimately preparing people to
perform in their daily lives. And with this membership as well, there's going to be weekly reports to give additional analytics. There's going to be a whole membership services outlet where you can get additional feedback on your information. And then you'll be part of a community. It's a community that, to your point, includes professional athletes. It includes Fortune.
Who are the athletes like that you really are pleased that use this product?
Well, you're going to have to find out on the community, but you know, we work with professional athletes across every professional sports league. We just became the official wearable of the NFL Players Association. We've been fortunate to be approved to be worn in Major League Baseball, so many top teams there are using the product. It's been a great year in the NBA. We do a lot of work with the military, so Olympians. It's you know, our technology was really grounded, I would say, with the best athletes in the world.
What then can we see in terms of monetization of such data? When you've got the best athletes in the world using it, are they able to use that data not only to see their recovery teams to perform at their peak, but also to let the world in on some of their secrets and start selling that data?
Yeah, you know, you saw the recent ruling with the Supreme Court and around gambling. I think it's a great opportunity for the players now to start monetizing their own health data. You know, our partnership with the NFL Players Association was really grounded on this notion of providing data from the best athletes in the world to fans. You know, it was only 30 years ago, really, that professional athletes started lifting weights. And now, you know, you can't go to a hotel in America that doesn't have a gym, right? A lot of that story came from professional athletes and was brought to the masses. And so I see the same thing happening with recovery and with sleep, where you're going to learn from the best athletes how to recover properly and how to sleep properly.
Well, what I think is really interesting is you haven't just got athletes, you've got Fortune 500 CEOs.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that they're learning about their data? How are they performing in a better way?
Well, much the same way you need to prepare for a game and be at the top of your performance as a professional athlete, you know, we're working with top executives who want to perform in their daily lives. And a lot of that comes down to recovery, it comes down to sleep, but it's other things that you're doing in your life. You know, things like meditation, can that help? Diet, can that help? Travel, how is that going to hurt? You know, we work with a number of tech CEOs on what they can actually do in terms of jet lag to minimize the effect that it's going to have on their bodies.
And so how do they change the time of their flights?
Yeah, it's changing times of flights. It's different supplements before they fly or after. It's timing your exercise appropriately. It's thinking about when the flight leaves. It's thinking about how early you get into a city in order to recover properly. And a lot of that's, you know, that's the work that we did originally with professional athletes. So, you know, I'd say as a general rule, Whoop takes this information that we learned from the best sports teams in the world or professional athletes, and then we use that information to help a larger audience.
And how did you build the Whoop 2.0, which you're wearing? Like, what technology is going into it? Who are you having to employ to ensure that you're at the cutting edge of this sort of innovation?
You know, the most important thing is really the granularity of the data. So collecting data 100 times a second, 100 megabytes of data on a person per day, it's much more granular and accurate than anything else on the market. And mind you, its main goal is just to collect health data. This isn't doing phone calls, it's not calling an Uber, but it's giving you then a level of understanding of your body that can help you perform at a higher level.
What do you think the next innovation is for the 3.0? Is it more granularity? Is it more types of data within your body? What is it?
Well, we're going to continue investing in our hardware. We're going to continue investing in our data. I think you're going to see a lot more approaches coming in that regard. You know, the flexibility in particular to wear the technology throughout the body. I like to say eventually this hardware is just going to disappear, and ultimately that analytics, that backbone of what you need to do to improve, is going to keep driving you.
So it'll be in your clothes when you say it will disappear? What are you
We'll see, Caroline. I mean, there's a lot to come.
Okay, and so how will you look to broaden the base in terms of the membership? You are charging a relatively expensive upfront fee, but then it's quite a cheap monthly basis. How do you keep it a luxury product, or where do you want to be in the marketplace?
So the Whoop membership is $30 a month. You know, that's the equivalent of one fitness class a month, right?
Yeah.
And in turn, you're getting a 24/7 coach on your body. So how do you make the most of that one fitness class? Or in a lot of cases, people are spending you know, $100 a training session, right, with their trainer. Well, Whoop is now going to actually help you get a lot more benefit out of that trainer, and maybe over time, you know, it can actually augment the trainer as well. So, you know, $30 a month seems quite affordable for the service that we're providing. And mind you, historically, we've been charging anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 per athlete at the elite level. Previously at the consumer market it was $500. So we've seen a great response just in the last 24 hours to this offering, and you know, we're growing fast, so it's exciting.
What's a great start? What's a great? What you just said you had a great pickup. What is that?
Well, it means a lot of.
An idea of numbers?
It means a lot of people are buying the product and they're excited about it. And, you know, we don't disclose a lot of these numbers publicly because we're a private company. But for a startup that's growing here in Boston, it's a really exciting moment for us as a company.
Okay, we'll come back when you can tell us a few of those numbers. Well, Ahmed, it's been great having you here. Thank you very much indeed. Equals the CEO of Whoop. Now, coming up, we talk to DraftKings CEO Jason Robins on how the Supreme Court landmark sport betting case will transform the gambling landscape. This is Bloomberg. Welcome back to Bloomberg Technology, coming at you from the home of the Red Sox, historic Fenway Park. Now, on Monday, the US Supreme Court ruled that states can legalize sports betting. And that's been big news for our next guest and his company, DraftKings, an online betting site that lets users enter daily and weekly sports contests with cash prizes. In fact, CEO Jason Robins estimates that Americans bet around $150 billion illegally through offshore venues. We caught up with Robins earlier this week to get his thoughts.
We have a whole product that we've been working on for almost a year. We're very excited to bring that to market and looking forward to having sports betting come this fall.
And so you'd really lined yourself up to take advantage of this. You'd put your bet out there that this was going to get passed.
It's exactly right. We did make a bet here. I think, you know, for us, the opportunity was too great to not be prepared. Even though we did make a bet and we didn't know what the outcome would be, we felt like the upside was so great that we had to make sure we were ready for it. And the day that we heard that the court had picked up the case, and you know, I think within 24 hours we were in a strategy planning session and we were off to the races on working on the product.
What about the states that are off to the races? We're pretty sure that New Jersey will get going pretty swiftly, but where do you see the rest of the states starting to enact this and make it legal to start betting on sports?
Several have already passed laws, including Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and New York. I think they will probably, my guess is, although I don't know, they will probably try to make sure they have their regulations issued and are ready for NFL season. And I think the other states that are still in session that are considering the bills that would legalize sports betting, you're probably going to see at least a handful of those now that they know where the court landed. I think you'll see at least a handful of those try to get ready for NFL season as well.
How do you keep fans engaged? How do you change your product to really dine out on this?
A lot of what we've built already is very applicable. Everything from the compliance systems to the AI systems that target based on sport affinity and other sorts of information we have on the customer. So a lot of that is just repurposing for sports betting. The product of sports betting itself will require some work for us to make sure we have the best in market. We think we're going to have a very competitive product day one, but it's a lot of innovation that's going to happen. And I think what you're looking at today is not going to be what the products look like 3 years, 4 years from now. So we're going to have to work hard there. But we do have the advantage of a built-in customer base, a brand, and a lot of technology that we've already built for fantasy sports that could be repurposed for sports betting.
A lot of that technology, of course, built right here in Boston, Massachusetts. What about the state of Massachusetts? Do you think that there's not much talk of them embracing this as a change for gambling on sports? Do you think they should?
Well, just yesterday there were comments from Governor Baker, from Speaker DeLeo, indicating that this is something they'd want to take a look at. I think there's a good chance that it's at least discussed. We'll see if they do anything. But I think Massachusetts has really proven itself in a number of areas to be very much a hub for technology, a rising hub. And I think there's a real opportunity here for them to take ownership of the sports technology space and really be seen, you know, hopefully with us being one of the leading faces of that, as a place that sports technology companies can find a home.
Do you think that that's already been growing? Have you built an ecosystem to a certain extent? I mean, you've got a lot of talent based here, and has it brought other competitors to your front doorstep?
It's definitely helped. I mean, I see a lot of new startups in the sports technology space, and there's a lot of companies that we work with that have talked about potentially opening a Boston office. So I think it's helped, but really it's more the policymakers and just being very aggressive. And I think here is a great example of an opportunity they have to do the same thing. And there will be early movers, New York and others in the area, so important for Massachusetts to stay competitive.
You were talking about artificial intelligence being something that you've already adopted. What are the other key areas of technology that you're driving forward on to make sure that you're a step ahead in terms of innovation?
A lot of what we do is just so similar. Everything from the things I mentioned to taking payments, customer acquisition. A lot of that sounds like it doesn't have a huge technology underpinning, but it does. There's a lot of work that has to be done, for example, to process tens of thousands of transactions, payment transactions per minute in the moments before an NFL game starts when everybody's trying to get their deposits in. On the customer acquisition side, when you're running on dozens of different mobile networks and buying across many different channels, both offline and online, having a data environment and tracking systems in place to be able to measure and track all that stuff. There's a lot of underlying technology that we built in those areas, and we're always adding to it as well. It's something that it's always changing, so we have to keep up to date with whatever the world is going.
And what about the going public bit? When do you foresee that, in the next year or two?
We'll have to see how quickly the sports betting market develops, but I think if there's good traction there and we feel like there's enough stability for us to be a public company, then that's something we'd look at. But I think we're probably at least a couple years away.
And until that couple of years, what now? What's the focus? Is it always talent? I feel like every CEO tells me it's the war of talent, but where do you really apply your time?
Talent is very important. Anytime you're entering a new vertical, I mean, we're always looking for great talent, but especially when you're entering a new vertical, you need to bring on new people to help run that. We've made several hires in that area. We also, I think, are really focused on building a technology platform that's scalable across a number of different verticals. So we homegrew most of our fantasy technology. I think the goal is to do the same thing with sportsbook. So want to make sure that we have the best technology platform out there, and I think we have a very talented group of engineers, but they're all getting educated on the space as well. And beyond that, I think just continuing to work with policymakers to make sure that the industry is regulated, not just here in Massachusetts, but everywhere. It's done in a way that allows for innovation and allows for good product for consumers.
That was our conversation with DraftKings CEO Jason Robins. And that does it for this edition of Bloomberg Technology. Tomorrow is our final day in Boston, and we'll be at the headquarters of Mass Challenge. It's a startup accelerator making a big impact here on the city. That's all for now from Boston's Fenway Park. This is Bloomberg.